today, we're going to talk about marijuana, or as some of you may know it, weed, pot, Mary Jane, ganja, or the devil's lettuce, depending on how conservative your grandma is. So, you may have heard that marijuana is a psychoactive drug, meaning it alters your mood, thoughts, and behavior. But how exactly does it do that? Well, marijuana contains over 100 chemicals called cannabinoids, but the most famous one is THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol, for you fancy folks out there. THC is the one that gets you high, and it does that by binding to special receptors in your brain called CB1 receptors. These receptors are part of the endocannabinoid system, which regulates things like appetite, pain, mood, and memory. When THC activates the CB1 receptors, it messes with their usual function, leading to a cascade of effects that can be both enjoyable and not so enjoyable. So, what are some of these effects, you ask? Well, let's start with the good news. THC can make you feel relaxed, euphoric, and giggly, hence why it's a popular choice for parties, concerts, and Netflix binges. It can also enhance your senses, making food taste better, music sound richer, and colors look brighter. Some people even report feeling more creative or introspective while high, which can be useful if you're an artist or a philosopher, or if you just want to impress your stoned friends. But of course, there's a flip side to every coin. THC can also cause some not-so-pleasant effects, especially if you overdo it or if you're a newbie who doesn't know their limits. For one, it can make you paranoid, anxious, or even panicky, especially if you're in an unfamiliar or stressful environment. It can also impair your memory, attention, and coordination, which is why you shouldn't drive or operate heavy machinery while high, unless you want to end up in a "how did I get here" meme. Some people also experience dry mouth, red eyes, or increased heart rate, which are not dangerous per se but can be annoying. So, that's how THC affects your brain. But what about your body? Well, the short answer is, it depends. Marijuana can have different effects on different parts of your body, depending on how you consume it, how much you consume, and what your individual biology is like. Here are some examples. If you smoke marijuana, which is the most common way of consuming it, you're likely to feel the effects within minutes, and they can last for a few hours. However, smoking can also irritate your lungs and lead to coughing, wheezing, or even bronchitis if you do it too often or too heavily. It can also increase your risk of lung cancer, although the evidence on that is not as strong as it is for tobacco. If you eat marijuana, which is another way of consuming it, you're likely to feel the effects later, usually within 30 to 60 minutes, and they can last for longer, up to 8 hours, depending on the dose. However, eating marijuana can lead to a stronger and longer-lasting high, which can be overwhelming for some people, especially if they're not used to it. It can also be harder to dose accurately, since the effects can vary depending on how much you eat, how fast you digest it, and what you eat it with. Fatty foods can enhance the absorption of THC. If you use marijuana topically, which means applying it directly to your skin, you're unlikely to feel high at all, since THC doesn't easily penetrate the skin barrier. However, you may experience some local effects, such as pain relief, inflammation reduction, or skin hydration, depending on the type of product you use, such as a lotion, balm, or patch. If you use marijuana as a suppository, which means inserting it into your rectum, you're well, let's just say you're in a niche category of users. But hey, if that's your thing, go for it. Suppositories can bypass the liver and deliver THC directly to the bloodstream, which can make them more potent than other forms of consumption. However, they can also be messy, uncomfortable, and not very discreet. So, those are some of the ways marijuana can affect your body. But what about the long-term effects? Are there any risks or benefits to using marijuana regularly or chronically? Well, the answer is complicated. Marijuana research is still in its early stages, and there are many factors that can influence its effects on health, such as age, gender, genetics, lifestyle, and concurrent use of other substances. However, here are some general trends that have been observed. Regular marijuana use. especially during adolescence, may impair brain development, particularly in areas related to memory, attention, and executive function. This can have long-term consequences for academic, social, and occupational success, especially if use starts before the age of 16 or 17. Marijuana use can also increase the risk of addiction, especially if you have a personal or family history of substance abuse. About 9% of people who use marijuana will become addicted to it, and the risk is higher if use starts in adolescence or if use is frequent and heavy. Marijuana use may have therapeutic benefits for some medical conditions, such as chronic pain, nausea, epilepsy, or multiple sclerosis. However, the evidence for these benefits is still limited, and more research is needed to determine the optimal doses, routes of administration, and patient populations. Marijuana use can also have some acute or long-term negative effects on physical health, such as respiratory problems, cardiovascular risks, immune system impairment, or reproductive complications. However, the severity and likelihood of these effects vary depending on the individual and the context of use. So, that's the gist of how marijuana affects your brain and body. Of course, this is just a summary, and there's a lot more to learn and explore about this fascinating plant. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think about marijuana? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to Curiosity Caboodle for more fascinating and entertaining content. Until next time, keep exploring the curiosities of our world. Thanks for watching, and stay curious.